The pursuit of happiness has always been an important aspect of philosophical thought, and Stoicism is an example of an ancient philosophical doctrine that emphasizes this idea. While the meaning of life is defined by the concept of eudaimonia, an ancient principle whose goal is to achieve happiness, the Stoics pay special attention to understanding the nature of the world and human thinking, including all its errors and misconceptions. Stoicism is often perceived as a passive and submissive philosophy that teaches us to accept what we cannot change. However, Stoic philosophy goes deeper, and we can extract more benefit from it. The beginning of the development of Stoicism is associated with the story of the Phoenician merchant Zeno, who, having survived a shipwreck while transporting a shipment of purple dye from Phoenicia to Piraeus, began to contemplate the meaning of life and became deeply interested in philosophy. Once in a bookstore, Zeno struck up a conversation with the seller. He asked him, "Where can I find people like Socrates?" The seller pointed to him and said, "Follow him." So Zeno became his student. At first, Crates taught him not to be ashamed of things that are not really shameful. Once he ordered Zeno to walk down the street with a pot full of lentil soup. And as soon as he saw the embarrassment of the student, he smashed the pot with his staff. The soup ran down Zeno's legs, and he ran away in horror. To which Crates only shouted after him with laughter, "What are you ashamed of, Phoenician? Nothing shameful has happened to you." Zeno learned wisdom from several more teachers, and finally founded his own school. Since he conducted classes under a painted porch, a public portico in the center of the city, the students were called Stoics. Any passerby could approach and listen to lectures on rhetoric, poetry, and ethics. Zeno died at the age of 98. And according to one version, of natural causes, according to another, he killed himself by starvation because he felt that he was no longer useful to society. As I already said, the Stoics believed that to be happy, one must understand three things: the nature of human thinking, the world, and one's place in it. To do this, they studied physics, logic, and ethics. Stoic physics is not what we are used to thinking about. It includes the study of the structure of the world, natural sciences, as well as metaphysics and theology. Stoic logic is the same as modern logic, the science of the forms and laws of correct thinking. This includes the study of epistemology, rhetoric, and even psychology. The pursuit of happiness and self-understanding in the world is a central aspect of Stoic philosophy, which has attracted much attention in recent times. At its core, Stoicism asserts that a person can achieve happiness by understanding the nature of the world and their own thought processes, including all their errors. However, Stoicism should not be seen as a passive philosophy, as it teaches people not to worry about things that are beyond their control. The development of Stoicism began with Zeno, a Phoenician merchant who, after a shipwreck, acquired the wisdom of several teachers and created his own school. Classes were held under a painted porch, where anyone interested could listen to teachings on rhetoric, poetry, and ethics. Stoic philosophy included the study of physics, logic, and ethics, as well as metaphysics and theology. Stoic physics encompassed the study of the structure of the world and the natural sciences. Logic, in turn, was the science of forms and laws of correct thinking, including epistemology, rhetoric, and psychology. Ethics were studied to develop the proper personality through spiritual exercises. Chrysippus once metaphorically expressed this: "Imagine Stoicism as a garden. Ethics are the fruits that grow in this garden. Physics fertilizes the soil for a rich harvest, and logic helps keep pests out of the garden." To cultivate the proper personality, Stoics followed 4 virtues. 1. Practical wisdom. It helps make decisions correctly. 2. Courage. It manifests itself as bravery in actions, such as in battle, as well as in psychological endurance, for example, fearlessly facing the facts. 3. Temperance. Here, everything is as it should be. There must be measure in everything. 4. Justice. Stoics must treat other people with dignity and fairness. Also, a Stoic develops oneself by following 3 disciplines. 1. Discipline of desire. In Stoicism, there is an important principle, the dichotomy of control. There are things we control and things outside our control. You choose your diet to be healthy, but you cannot control your body. Therefore, you should not worry about, for example, falling ill. Stoics are obligated to distinguish between these things. But without knowledge of physics, this is impossible to do because we often mistakenly believe that most things are still under our control. Courage and moderation also help with this. 2. Discipline of action. The second discipline regulates our behavior. And as you might guess, justice and knowledge of ethics are necessary here. 3. Discipline of assent. The last discipline is about how to react to events around us. A Stoic analyzes the first impressions of what they see and hear, and then decides whether to agree with them or not. It is based on the study of logic and requires wisdom. As you can see, the Stoics considered it important to work on their own personality. And in order to constantly cultivate wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation in themselves, they performed spiritual exercises that can be applied in life. 1. Analyze your impressions. Epictetus advises, so try to say to every unpleasant fantasy, you are just a mental representation, and not what you appear to be. Then examine it and test it against the rules you have. Ask yourself whether this vision belongs to what is in our power or what is beyond it. And if it belongs to what is beyond our power, then have the following judgment at hand. This does not concern me. This is where stereotypes come into play. This advice is often interpreted as slavish, but this is fundamentally incorrect. Stoics have the concept of diaphora, indifferent, unpreferable, and preferable. Indifferent is what we cannot control. However, it is divided into unpreferable and preferable. Epictetus explains this through a comparison of Socrates' life to playing ball. Socrates played as if he were playing ball. And what kind of ball was there in the middle? It is to live, to be in chains, to be exiled, to drink poison, to lose his wife, to leave his children orphans. That was what was in the middle, what he played, but nonetheless played, and played ball smoothly. So our care should be the most skillful ball game, and indifference. What about the ball? In general, during a soccer game, everyone focuses on the ball. However, it is an indifferent thing. That is, we do not care what it is made of, what color or size it is. It is not as valuable as a football player's game. It is just what is being controlled. And no one, even the most expensive player in the world, knows how he will handle the ball in a given situation. The main thing on the field is to show what you are capable of. Let's return to Socrates. He was given a soccer field, life itself, the time in which he was born, the city and the environment. His opponents are events that test his possession of the ball. He could either beautifully bypass them or play dirty with them. One of these opponents was the accusation of impiety based on the envy of his detractors. And although he argued in court, he was sentenced to death. His friends suggested bribing the guards, but he refused. Socrates could not reconcile with betraying himself, his virtues. The main thing for him was to preserve honor. Stoics must follow all 4 virtues. Here they are radical. For Socrates, it was better to endure the verdict of the court than, ashamed of himself, to gain some freedom. How can there be talk of slavery in Stoicism when the main thing for Stoics is to follow virtues? After all, Stoics were active individuals such as Petronius Agrippinus, Marcus Aurelius, Lucius Seneca, and so on. The Stoics practiced an exercise called premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of evils. The idea is to imagine some sort of chaos and then consider how to deal with it. The philosophers believed it was important to be psychologically prepared for anything. For example, Seneca, when embarking on a journey, would imagine the captain falling ill, pirates attacking, or a storm hitting. Of course, if a kraken were to swallow the ship, Seneca would be powerless, but not despairing. Stoicism teaches that the universe has no favorites. Your neighbor's tragedy is no different from your own misfortune. Try to view other people's problems in the same light as your own, and put them in a broader human context to make it easier to handle the blows. Sometimes I think about the scale of a person compared to various cosmic objects, and to be honest, it makes things easier for me. 2. Remind yourself of the transients of things. Epictetus advises, in every object that delights you, that benefits you, and that attracts your love, remember to tell yourself what the thing is, beginning with the least significant objects. If you love a jug, say to yourself, I love a jug. For if it is broken, you will not be disturbed. If you love your child or your spouse, say that you love a human being. For if they die, you will not be disturbed. This is a very wise saying, and it is not pessimistic at all, but rather realistic, for we often feed on illusions. Ancient philosophers often reminded themselves of important things through notes that they carried with them or exercises. For example, the phrase memento mori means remember death. For the Stoics, it was not gloomy. On the contrary, it inspired them. For when to act, if not now? If we dig into the Stoics' notes, we will find a lot of discussions about death with guidance. No wonder one of Seneca's biographies is called Dying Every Day. Try to be as light-hearted about death as Epictetus, for example. Now is the time for this material to break down again into the elementary principles from which it was formed by the combination of them. And what is so terrible about that? What can disappear in the universe? What new, unreasonable things can arise? Amor fati means love of fate, love of misfortune or happiness. No difference, acceptance of life with all its events. This does not mean enduring or resisting the flow. It means accepting it. Your loved one passes away in your arms, amor fati. You get fired from your job, amor fati. You are falling rapidly with the airplane, amor fati. This phrase nurtures, gives strength and hope. Self-centeredness brings strong emotions that are empty, and energy is wasted in vain. 3. True friends. Our personality changes not only through our own efforts, but also through our environment. That is why the Stoics learned to choose their friends wisely. Epictetus advises, reject banquets with people who are indifferent to wisdom. But if you ever happen to be with such people, be careful not to sink to the level of the ignorant. Know that if your friend is dirty, then by associating with him, even if you yourself were clean, you will inevitably become dirty. Friends should be wise. And by wise people the Stoics mean those who develop their virtues, those who use reason for good. Remember, memento mori. Life is short and fleeting. The goal of every person is to understand life. And when there are so many useless activities around us, we must choose those who are not involved in them. 4. Control your speech. Epictetus advises, mostly keep silent, or, if you speak, say only what is necessary and in a few words. Occasionally, When the circumstances demand it, speak, but not about random things. Especially, do not speak about people with condemnation or praise, and do not compare them. Worse than superficial conversations are idle chatter and gossip. Gossip is senseless because the person being talked about cannot defend themselves. By gossiping, we give up our virtues and therefore lose our dignity. Ultimately, the Stoics believe that people often don't know that they are doing something wrong. So, why condemn them for ignorance? What does a thief want to do? What is useful to him? Therefore, it is incorrect to say that if stealing is not useful to him, he will not do what he wants. And every soul that possesses reason by nature is hostile to contradiction. And as long as a person does not understand what is contradictory, nothing prevents him from doing something contradictory. In addition to gossip and superficial conversations, speak less about yourself. In conversation, do not often and inappropriately mention your affairs and misfortunes. Just as it is pleasant for you to remember what you have experienced, it is equally unpleasant for others to listen to your troubles. The daily routine of ordinary mortals does not concern anyone. Only those closest to you are interested in your affairs. Respect other people's time. 5. Each challenge is an opportunity for training. Epictetus advises, remember that in every situation, you should look for the ability that you possess to use it. If you see a handsome young man or a beautiful girl, you will gain self-control. If you are offered work, you will gain endurance, and if you are subjected to insults, you will gain patience. And if you develop such a habit, your fantasies will not carry you away. Remember the dichotomy of control. We cannot eradicate injustice in the world, but we can at least make an effort to fight against the injustice that is right in front of us. To do this, we must train ourselves. Pythagoras advises, do not let sleep descend on your tired eyes until you have reviewed each day's deeds. Where did I go wrong? What did I do? What duty did I leave undone? Starting from this, review your actions one by one, and be glad or sorry accordingly. Seneca also advises reflecting on the day before going to sleep, as clarity of mind weakens in bed. Marcus Aurelius kept a philosophical journal altogether. Difficulties are the key to perfection, and they need to be honed to refine our character. Stoicism is not a philosophy that you hear once and understand everything. It is a practice. The Stoic's mind is a tool for building a thinking society. So immerse yourself in this philosophy, at least in part. Friends, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. In the description, I have left a few books that will help you delve even deeper into this philosophy. Thank you for being with me, and see you soon